Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here. Today I want to show you guys the Unkillable Storm build for Anthem. This is an extremely tanky build that is practically unkillable. Now you can actually die with this build, but the truth is, if you die with this, it's really on you. In fact, this build will make you lazy. You get so used to being so tanky and almost unkillable that sometimes you might die just because you don't think you'll die. You get used to not dying. And if you try to play another Javelin after playing this build for a long period of time, you're going to get wrecked on any other Javelin because the Storm now is just ridiculous on how tanky it is. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to go ahead and show you what you need for this build. It's actually really simple. And I would recommend, no matter what your Storm build is, to try to actually utilize this and make room for it, because being an unkillable god is just too good to pass up. Now, one thing I do want to say is I completely accidentally discovered this when patch 1.4 came out. Now, I never played the Storm. I had a bunch of stuff for it just from unlocking it from my other Javelins, because you know how it is. You get a ton of components for Javelins that you're not even playing. And I had enough components that I just went ahead and threw them all on, and I started playing because I had an idea for a build I wanted to do. And as I was playing throughout that entire day on Grandmaster 3, and by the way, I was kind of under-leveled for it, I was literally noticing that I did not die all day. And I was telling my friends, you know, I haven't died. Something's going on here. I don't know why I'm so beefy, because I'm so used to playing with Storms and seeing Storms die a lot. They seem to be pretty flimsy, and they do tend to go down and die a lot. And I just wasn't dying. So I went ahead and looked at my components, and I figured it out, and it is pretty ridiculous. Now, if you want to pull this off, you're going to need two components. One is going to be the Vanguard's token, and the other one is going to be Soften Blows. Soften Blows is a universal component, and the Vanguard's token is a Storm component. Now, what the Vanguard's token will do is that anytime your shield breaks, it's going to give you 40% damage resistance for 10 seconds. What Soften Blows will do is anytime that your shield breaks, it's going to give you 75% damage resistance for 5 seconds. So, that is over 100% damage resistance whenever your shield breaks for 5 seconds. That will make you completely immune to damage for 5 seconds. Now, the way that this works is that whenever your shield goes down, you're going to have to take a little bit of damage. Once you have taken that damage, and I'm talking about you do have to actually take armor damage. For whatever reason, whenever the shield breaks, it will not just immediately kick in. But whenever you take a little bit of damage, the effects will kick in, and then you become completely immune to all damage, which is just amazing. And the thing is that as you're actually taking no damage, the game will register that as you are not even getting hit. So what will end up happening is that within that 5-second period where you're taking no damage, if you have the right setup, you can actually start to regenerate your shields. Now, if it starts to regenerate even a tiny little bit, and then you are continuing to take damage, you're going to lose your shields again immediately. But the effect will kick right back in. Now, you might be thinking, well, can you be one-shotted? I have never once, while playing this build, been one-shotted once I've lost the shield. Even if I get hit by something really powerful from a boss that would normally one-shot me, I have yet to be one-shotted from that. It will take me to critical, and I mean like super critical. Whenever you get into the super critical status, that's when you really want to start kind of trying and dodging to try to regenerate a little bit of health, because that is the only point where you can potentially die, is whenever you're in that super critical status, because if your shield breaks and you're still in that super critical status, you're going to take a little bit of damage, and when you take that damage, you will go down. So that's the only time that you will normally die when you're using this setup. Like I said, you can use this on any Storm build. It does not matter. There are some things that will make this even better, which I'm going to talk about, but it's up to you if you want to use them or not. One thing I guess I should point out as well is that you can do the exact same thing on the Colossus. But the difference between the Colossus and the Storm is the Colossus has to be using the Colossus shield, which most people, when they're playing Colossus, really only use the shield for getting revives and stuff like that. And that's kind of the problem with the Colossus. With this, it's just all the time. anytime your shield breaks and then you take a little bit of damage, you are going to become immune to damage for 5 seconds. Now, a couple things that will dramatically help with this build is using the shield sigil consumable. That's going to increase your maximum shields, but the main thing is it's going to give you shield regeneration of 30%. You can't double stack it with a blue. You can use green, but for whatever reason, the blue is glitched. We were supposed to get that at level 20. We did not get that, so hopefully Bioware will give us the rare shield sigil, but we do not have that. We do not have the armor rare sigil or the gear rare sigil, and I believe we do not have the heat capacity rare sigil. So hopefully they will actually give that to us eventually, because that is a real bummer. But if you could double stack the 20% with the 30%, you would absolutely have no problem with getting your shields back. Now, I went ahead and looked into this, and this kind of blew my mind. One of the things that will help with this is if you can get certain inscriptions on your components. And what you're looking for is actually shield refresh. I thought what you'd be looking for would be shield delay, because I just thought that shield delay is the amount of time it takes before your shield will come back when you have no shield, because that's how it works in Mass Effect, and I played that a lot, and that's exactly what it did in Mass Effect. But apparently shield refresh will do that, where shield delay is the time it takes to regenerate once it's already regenerating. So that's really confusing, but the point is that if you can get some shield refresh bonuses on your other components, that will dramatically help you, because the whole idea here is that you want to start regenerating shields within that 5-second period when you have the 100% damage resistance. And if you can do that consistently, you are going to become an unkillable god. Now, one thing I have noticed is sometimes when I'm taking elemental damage from like a storm, I will actually die fairly quickly. Now, I do notice that when I have the 100% damage resistance, I'm normally not taking damage, but then once that starts to wear off and I get my shield back, I seem to actually go down pretty quickly when I'm taking elemental damage. So one thing that you can also use to help this is the Mark of Clarity. This is going to increase your elemental damage resistance by 35%, but the big thing is that it's going to give your armor back whenever you clear a status effect. Now, what's really funny, and I'm going to show this when I demonstrate this, is that when you're actually taking the hits, you're taking like no damage from the element if you have the effect going, and then just completely randomly, you're going to get a huge chunk of your health back. This will definitely help you get your armor back whenever you are taking elemental attacks from either a storm enemy or from a brute or something like that. Another thing that can dramatically help you is Rejuvenating Ammo. It's another universal component. This one, anytime you pick up health packs or ammo packs, you're going to actually get some of your armor back. So this can help you stay alive, because it is important that whenever you get down to critical status or really low in your health, and that will happen, you are going to want to try to refill your health if possible. It's going to take a long time, potentially, for you to get down to that status, and you're going to stay alive, and it's amazing. But whenever you're super critical, you do want to start to try to dodge and avoid taking damage if possible, and also healing yourself, which this can help with that. Another thing is if you are using an auto rifle, which is what I'm doing for my build, then there is a new universal component that whenever you fire the last shot of the magazine of the auto rifle, that's going to give you 50% damage resistance. That too could also help with this to make you a true tank. Now, when it comes to the build I'm using, I'm not actually going to show that off right now because I don't want to waste any extra time. The main purpose of this video is to show you how to achieve this unkillable status and this super tank storm build. And you can do this, like I said, on any storm build. You just have to have the two components, and that's really it. If you want to add the other components in there, you can. So keep that in mind. You can do it on whatever storm build you want. But I will in the future be showing off my storm build because I've been working on it because I had a concept for what I wanted for the build, and I'm trying to get there. I still don't have all the legendaries I want, and I definitely don't have the inscriptions I want. So I'm going to continue to work on that and grind it, and hopefully I can make it better, and then I'll show that off in the future. But for now, let me go ahead and show you what this does and how this is just crazy because it makes your storm so tanky. Alrighty guys, well here's going to be some gameplay of this. I'm really just going to let the enemies shoot me, and then you're going to see me just take like no damage, which is incredible. But there are a couple things I guess I should actually point out about this. The first thing is, this is much better in a group, because whenever you're in a group, the enemies are not just going to focus you, and that is definitely kind of a problem if you're soloing and everything is shooting you. That's going to make this a lot tougher than it should be. We're in a group. It's not really a problem. But right now you can see I'm taking no damage. And now I'm going to take a little bit more health damage. But what's going to end up happening is all my effects are going to kick in. At least my soften blows and my Vanguard token will actually go ahead and kick in. And I'm immune to damage. So I could just stand here and take the punishment. Right there, you could see my shield started to come back because that's what I'm going for. Remember, shield refresh is what you want. The more, the better for this. And, of course, you want to use the Consumable, which is what I'm using right now. If you don't have that Consumable on, this does work, but it doesn't work nearly as good. Now, as you can see, I'm taking damage. So one of the things I need to be cautious here of is when I actually get down to critical. So once I get down to critical, that is when I'll start to maybe try to dodge, let my health regenerate, especially if it's really low. But remember, if you're in a group, like I said, you're not going to be taking nearly as much damage because the enemies aren't going to be focusing you as much. And on top of that, you're actually going to be actively having your allies help you kill stuff, so you can pick up health packs that way. It's really great. Now, one of the things I want to do is actually get a storm to appear in this cave, because I'm going to show that off as well. And another thing I forgot to actually mention, there is a storm there, is the token of daring. That's actually really good for the storm. It's been buffed since 1.4, and it's actually quite crazy, because whenever you lose your shield now, it will instantly recharge all of your powers. So it doesn't matter what powers you're using, you get them back instantly. Alright, let me find the storm, and I'm going to let the storm actually hit me a little bit here. And when the storm hits me, it's going to set me on fire, but I start to get my health back because of the Mark of Clarity. So that's actually really crazy. Now, for my final version of this build, at least my vision of what I want for the build, I'm probably not going to be using the Mark of Clarity, I'll be honest. But for now, it's definitely really nice, because that was one of the only weaknesses of this build I noticed, is when I'm getting hit and set on fire and things like that from storms and brutes and all that type of good stuff, that it was definitely a problem for me. So yeah, but as you can see, this build is extremely tanky. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's one last thing I should also mention. I did forget to talk about a couple things. One of the components you could also use to make this even better is emergency power. Now, the reason why emergency power is nice is because whenever you are using this build, you will go down to critical. And the thing is that you will survive critical most of the time. Like, you will get all the way down to the really tiny itsy bitsy health that is required to kick in emergency power to get your ultimate back. So whenever that happens, just go ahead and pop your ultimate, get all your health back, and you're good to go. Now, that does have a cooldown timer of 2 minutes on it, so keep that in mind. And that can kind of screw you when you're stacking a lot of different universal components, because your base health and shields are lower. And another thing I guess I should mention is, I personally think because of the token of daring, which is the component that will instantly refresh all of your gear whenever you lose your shield, and the fact that you are so beefy when you don't have a shield, you're pretty much immune to damage. Because of that, I would say that you really don't need a lot of shield bonuses on your storm now. I think that it's probably better, if you're using this setup, to go for more health bonuses, because you do have to take that little bit of health damage. And if you do get hit by something really powerful, like let's say an Earth 6 will throw a rock at you or something, that will generally take you from full health to critical. But it will not one-shot you. That is something I can promise you. I've been hit by that kind of stuff, and I have not been one-shotted from it, and that is just awesome. Alrighty guys, well that's going to do it for this video. I really hope that you have enjoyed it and this has helped. If it has, will you please like the video for me? Be sure to subscribe for future videos, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.